7 o'clock, June 4th, the regular council meeting of the Waverly City Council called to order. And if you, clerk will take the roll call, please.
Bergen.
Here.
Drankow.
Here.
Angus.
Here.
McKenzie.
Here.
Rothy.
Yes, here.
Bear.
Yes, here.
Osney.
Here.
Very good. If you would all join me and stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Carried 7-0. Approval of the minutes from the May 7th, 2018 regular meeting minutes and the May 21st, 2018 study session minutes. Entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the minutes for May 7 and May 21.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried. Guest council member for June will be Megan Hoyne, and Councilman Drenko. Would you do the honors?
Certainly, I'd be more than happy to. I asked Megan to be our guest council person for June. Megan is a December graduate of Wartburg College. Before that, she was an intern at Advantage Administrators and is now, after she graduated, was hired on as a communications director at Advantage Administrators. But the reason that I asked her to participate here in our council meetings is that a few weeks ago, she was also a graduate of Project LEAD here in Waverly. And for those of you who are not familiar with Project LEAD, I printed this off the city's website, and I'm going to read it, very short. So that's much easier than me trying to explain what Project LEAD is. Project LEAD is a professional development series that is designed to foster community awareness while developing individual leadership skills. The program gives leaders a broader view of civic leadership responsibilities and opportunities through direct contact with people who shape the city of Waverly. Participants will listen to presentations, debate issues, participate in activities, visit with Waverly and Cedar Valley business leaders, and tour facilities. Class members will also have the opportunity to complete a service project of their choosing where they're able to demonstrate their gained knowledge. People from my organization have been involved in Project LEAD for a number of years, both as participants and as presenters. It is a great thing that the Chamber, I think, is involved in, and I would certainly encourage anyone who wants to become involved in the function of the city of Waverly to, and all the volunteer organizations to participate in that. So there's my, Travis is giving me a thumbs up for the free publicity. So welcome, Megan.
Thank you.
Would you like to enlighten us a little bit with any further information about yourself?
I was a public relations major at Wartburg and a graphic design minor. And I went to Wartburg West and I interned on the presidential campaign. And so I kind of got interested in politics and stuff like this. So then when Rod asked me, I was very interested and excited to join.
Very, very good, thank you. You have all the powers of a member of the council, discussion, ask questions, whatever. The only thing that they say you can't do is vote. And, so, no, welcome aboard, and we're looking forward to your participation. So, this is the date, time, and place for a public hearing on an ordinance amending section 100.4 of the Waverly Municipal Code, providing for addition of section 100.4.14, conversion to condominium or multiple family housing cooperative. The mayor and city council want to entertain any comments after Val gives me You have any written or comment? Okay. Any comments from anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to this? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. I would entertain a motion.
I'll move the second reading of ordinance 1046, an ordinance amending section 100.4 of the Waverly Municipal Code, providing for addition of section 100.4.14, conversion to condominium or multiple family housing cooperative.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Council discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Bergen.
Yes.
Drinkow.
Yes.
Angus.
Yes.
Kinsey.
Yes.
Rothy.
Yes.
Sher.
Yes.
Walston.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Next item is public comments for any item that's not on the agenda. Is there anyone here with items to present? Seeing not, we'll move on to the consent calendar. Following items will be acted upon by voice vote on a single motion. Pay request from McClure Engineering Company for the Waverly Municipal Airport Runway 29 Extension 2018 for $1,620.75. Pay request from Kramer and Associates for the Cedar River Parkway East improvements for 2018 for $136,342.53. Pay request from Stanley Consultants for the Cedar River Parkway East improvements 2018 for $80,417.30. Pay request from Barry Smith Grading and Excavating for the downtown alley reconstruction 2018 for $29,599.53. Approve the purchase of Civic Center sound upgrades from Maximum Sight and Sound of Waterloo, Iowa for $15,160.50. Class B beer license for Bremer County Fair Association, cigarette, tobacco, nicotine vapor permits for Casey's General Store, 1649, Fairway Stores, 561, Hy-Vee, Quick Star, 286, 707, and 752, Liquor Tobacco Outlet, Prairie Links Golf Course and Event Center, Walgreens, Walmart, Waverly Golf and Country Club. I would entertain a motion.
I move approval of the consent calendar as stated by the mayor. Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any council discussion on any item? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed? Motion carried 7-0. Regular business item number 1, approving resolution 1879, directing for the advertisement for sale of $11 million. And that dollar amount is subject to change. General Obligation Bond Series 2018A, and approving electronic bidding procedures and official statement. Entertain a motion.
I'll move approval of resolution 18-79, directing the advertisement for sale of $11 million, dollar amount subject to change, general obligation bonds, Series 2018A, and approving electronic bidding procedures and official statement.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Council discussion. Staff input, of any?
Very quickly, sir, each year when you sell bonds, you have to go through and you have to see a lengthy official statement. The entire audit's included in it. It's a history of some of the economic issues of the city, how we're doing financially. It's all to help potential bidders get an idea of what they're looking at, how strong the city is before we go and have our conference call this week with Moody's. Jennifer and I will go through that process, get our bond rating, and on the 18th, we will sell the first bond of $11 million as well as the next one on the agenda, and then come back and report to council on the result. So this is the first in that long step of getting bonds sold to pay for some of the projects that we have in process and hopefully have in the future process.
Very good, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Have we gotten any indication where interest rates might be? I know Home
Not
mortgages
yet.
have ticked up a little bit, I'm wondering.
A lot of times, the 10-year mark is kind of the differing factor. When it's 10 or above, your long-term rates will seem to tick a little more. Sometimes your short-term doesn't move as much. And so within a week prior, we'll take a look at the market, kind of see where it's sitting. But it's kind of a little volatile right now. And so day to day, you're seeing some changes up and down. So until they actually sell it that morning, I think we'll still have a very good sale. I think we'll have a good rating. I think we'll be reaffirmed. That's my estimate. And I do think we'll have very good interest on these bonds just because of the size of them. So,
Very good. Any other questions, comments? Roll call vote, please.
Drakau,
Yes.
Kangas,
Yes.
McKenzie,
Yes.
Rafi,
Yes.
Scherer,
Yes.
Wallstein,
Yes.
Bergen,
Yes.
Motion carried, 7-0. Item number 2, resolution approving 1880, directing the advertisement for sale of $1,665,000, again, dollar subject to change, water revenue bonds, Series 2018B, and approving electronic bidding procedures and official statement. Entertain a motion.
I will move approval of Resolution 1880, directing the advertisement for sale of $1,665,000, dollar amount subject to change, water revenue bonds, Series 2018B, and approving electronic bidding procedures and official statement.
Second.
Motion made and second. Council discussion. Same procedures as indicated on the $11 million issue.
yes, sir. This is just for the water bond portion of the Bremer Avenue project.
Okay. Any other questions? Roll call vote, please.
Kangas,
Yes.
McKenzie,
Yes.
Rafi,
Yes.
Scherer,
Yes.
Wallstein,
Yes.
Bergen,
Yes.
Drakau,
Yes.
Motion carried, 7-0. Item number 3, approving resolution 1881, approving the support and financial commitment from the City of Waverly for the Main Street program in Waverly, Iowa. Entertain a motion.
I will move approval of Resolution 1881 as read by the mayor.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Is this input from someone in the gallery?
Good evening. I'm Heidi Solheim. I'm the 2018 Board Chair with the Waverly Chamber of Commerce.
And I'm Travis Tolliver, the Executive Director of the Waverly Chamber of Commerce and Main Street Program.
Well, we thank you for your time today and especially your service here with our community. We just want to give a little bit of background on the Main Street Iowa program and how Waverly has benefited as a community to this. We've been a member since 1989, and currently there's 54 communities that are involved in the Main Street Iowa program. So it's a great program spread throughout the state. It really focuses on 4 main points: the economic vitality, which is what we represent in our Business Development Committee; organization, which is our membership and marketing committee; promotion, which is in our retail promotion, and they're responsible for all the great events we have down in the Main Street area; and finally, the design committee, which is our design and beautification, who's been a part of the streetscape and the planters that we have up and down Bremer Avenue and as you enter our community. Since 1989, when we've been a member, we've had 105 businesses start, relocate, or expand into the the Main Street District, which goes from 7th to 7th, in between 1 and 2 blocks north or south of Bremer Avenue. That helps for understanding that. An estimate of 281 net jobs during that time period, 536 building projects, $23.7 million of private investment in the downtown district. 78 properties have been sold and approximately $7 million in private funds to do those purchases. Over 90,000 volunteer hours, which most of the chamber, we've got great staff, but most of the chamber are pure volunteers, between the board members all the way through all of the people who donate their time on the councils. I guess the thing we wanted to give you a heads up, Main Street Iowa is changing their resolution or their agreement terms to go from a 24-month to now 12-month. So you're going to get really used to seeing Travis, whoever the board chair is, moving forward every year. So everyone will have that opportunity. Yes.
No, just to add on to what Heidi said, we will always appreciate the partnership and the strong support that we receive from the city with regards to the Main Street program. The Main Street program offers Waverly financial assistance through different grants, state grants, federal grants, for revitalization of downtown properties so that the taxable values increase. And Waverly is a shining example of how the Main Street program has really helped our community and shows other communities throughout the state what can be done with a very strong downtown throughout our community. So I want to thank you again for your support, and this is a once every 2-year opportunity that we get to come in front of you to talk about this. It's going to turn into 18 months, and then like Heidi said, it'll be every 12 months. So you'll get to hear more about this all the time. So it's great.
Very good, thank you. Any questions for Heidi or Travis from the council?
I'm just wondering, of the Main Street cities, you said there were 50-some, 54 or something? How many of them collaborate similarly with the chamber, or are we different in that respect?
Waverly was actually one of the first communities to combine their chamber and Main Street program. Right now, I'd probably say it's about maybe almost 50%. It seems to be a trend, only because the efforts of Main Street programs versus the efforts of chambers seem to be very similar, but in the sense that Main Street is just looking at a downtown district versus a chamber, which is looking at an entire community. So Waverly, long ago, had the forethought of combining the two together. We also have a combined board and combined financials. And so that has been a key to our success with regards to our organization. I remind people all the time that we are a community-wide chamber, but with downtown responsibilities, and that a healthy community always has a very strong downtown.
So Travis, as towns spread, how do you decide what is downtown? And how did the 7th to 7th boundary get determined?
That's a good question. Those boundaries have been determined long before I came, but I believe that an assessment was done back when Waverly applied to be a Main Street community, and it was determined that a certain geographical area of Waverly was determined to be the downtown district. Since then, I believe it has expanded twice in its history, and we can also maybe take a look at redrawing the lines again if it makes sense for the community and for the buildings in some of those areas that may not be in the Main Street program or in the Main Street district, if that's something that the council would want to maybe consider, or even maybe our board. So it's certainly something that we would be working with Des Moines on, for sure.
Travis, we have a number of communities in Iowa, some of them in our county, that have difficulty keeping all of their downtown spaces filled. Waverly's always seems to be full. How do you account for that? Is it because you're so charming when you...
I wish. I really do. No, I think we've had a very successful rate of keeping businesses in some of our storefronts because we have such an attractive community. Our business industry throughout the community is very diverse. It's very attractive to people that want to start up businesses, that want to move their businesses to an additional location. Waverly seems to be a very prime spot for that. And of course, the trend across the country is to take a look at revitalizing and expanding urban spaces such as ours. And so I think it's very attractive to new businesses, especially to have a downtown setting. So that's really all I can think of for that answer. Does that answer your question, though?
I do think you're charming, but that's a good answer.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it.
So one addition to that, too, is with our Business Development Committee, which is currently led by Matt Lamos from East Bramer Diner, formerly Reed Koenig. They've taken a very proactive approach to looking at what facilities are available in town, not just downtown, but also along 4th and some of those changes, and proactively talking to maybe home-based businesses or other organizations that really maybe need to upgrade their space. So they've been going out, meeting on their actually having meetings in some of those businesses for their regular committee meeting to learn more about it and to really showcase. Recently, Cross Point Church is one that they were very excited to have a chance to tour it and look at a way to repurpose a building that could have very easily become a major problem for us as a city. So I think the proactive approach and the number of board members and people on the committee that are just really dedicated to Waverly, I think is really a testament to the community as well as the organization of the chamber.
I have a question for Travis or Heidi, whoever. Is my understanding correct that the Chamber and the Main Street are actually just one organization? It's the Chamber and Main Street Community. There really aren't two separate organizations.
Correct. So it used to be two separate organizations. They merged back in, I think, 1994, or maybe 2004, I can't remember, I'm sorry. But it is just one organization now with one board and one set of financials.
So if part of the focus is on Main Street, which is really different than the general charge of what a chamber does, I mean, how do you allocate your time and resources from just concentrating on the Main Street area versus the work that you do throughout the entire town? Because we have several different business areas that are now moving up. I mean, 10th Avenue, 4th Street. There are several other spots where we have very strong business activity.
Yeah, absolutely. The answer to your question really is that it all kind of melds in together. As far as allocating time between Chamber and Main Street, it really blends in together. I keep track of allocating my time between the two. It just all blends in. So really, though, if you take a look at all of our committees that Main Street requires us to have, the committees that Heidi just named off, not only are they focused on downtown and working on the different their different responsibilities in downtown, but they take those principles and use them throughout the community as well. So we're like business development, like Heidi was talking about, not only are we taking a look at open spaces in the downtown district, we're also taking a look at open spaces in South 4th and West Bremer and all the retail districts so that we understand that what works in downtown works throughout the community as well. So we're trying to spread that information and those tools that we have to service the entire community instead of just the downtown district.
Have you done any targeted kinds of prospecting for businesses? And what I'm saying is that to determine these are the kinds of businesses that we would like to have in this area. For example, a downtown, if we want to make it more lively, more things, more activities going on. There are certain types of businesses. Certainly a restaurant or a brew pub or something would be much more in tune for that kind of thing than an insurance office or a law office. So, have you looked at ways that we might be weak in certain areas, certain types of businesses that we would like to attract to the downtown area, the Main Street area? And then saying, how can we go out and actually provide recruitment or financial incentives or whatever to get those targeted businesses to come to our Main Street area?
Yep, absolutely. The answer is yes. It's the short answer. The long answer would be that in 2016, we went through a market analysis study with Main Street, Iowa, to take a look at what needs to be done as far as marketing our Main Street district, recruiting businesses. I went through extensive training with that. Some of the folks on council were involved in that. City staff was involved with that. And through that process, we actually did take a survey of local residents to see what they felt was missing in the downtown district as far as retail and shops and whatnot. And we came back with the top three, I think, were coffee shop / bakery, a women's apparel, and a specialty food store. And happy to say that we've got a bakery coming. We've got a specialty food shop in the Butcher Block. And we've had a couple of women's apparel stores come online since that survey. So that has given us an insight into what folks were looking for. Just ran off a report today from ESRI to find out in 2018 what it is that we're over on and what it is that we're under on as far as different kind of retail and different kind of services that we provide throughout the entire community of Waverly. And so our Business Development Committee will be taking a look at that report and maybe looking at focusing on where some of those services or retail shops could be relocated to within Waverly. Certainly there have been times when I've been asked to go and actually specifically recruit for a specific business. One of them was a men's apparel store in Osage that decided not to come. The other one too was a kind of a bakery situation and talking with the owner of Scratch Cupcake to maybe bring a concept to Waverly. And so I've had a few different different times are opportunities to actually personally go out and recruit, and still looking at ways to do that when the Business Development Committee wants me to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Well, I want to say I love all the great things you're doing with downtown. I love trick-or-treating on Main Street. I love Christmas on Main Street. I love Oktoberfest. I love Art in the Park. All those things that you guys are doing, I think you're doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess one last question. As Mike indicated, I think we've got strong storefronts, but we seem to have a strong upper story now. Have we seen the benefits of having more people actually living in the downtown?
Yeah, I would say so. I think I brought the stat to this council maybe 2 years ago, where an individual living in a downtown setting brings about $19,000 worth of economic impact a year to a downtown area. And so with all of our upper story project, which included 18 living units full now, those units, with some of them having multiple people living inside of them, have brought a good economic impact to the community. And certainly we're excited to see what happens with the former CUNA building and those 34 units coming online at some point in the near future, and how that's going to impact our downtown. But certainly it's great to have building owners taking a look at the idea of how could they revitalize some of that living space up above their storefronts, and so we can see more lights on in those windows at night than we had before. So thank you for mentioning that.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Thank you very much, Travis and Heidi, for your
Thank you, Mr.
report, participation, and we'll look forward to working with you, continuing the relationship that's been established. So, very good. Roll call vote, please.
McKenzie?
Yes.
Rothy?
Yes.
Barrett?
Yes.
Wellstein?
Yes.
Bergen?
Yes.
Joykow?
Yes.
Angus?
Yes. Motion carried 7-0. Item number 4, approving resolution 1882, approving a 5-year billing services contract to begin July 1st, 2018 with Waverly Utilities for services related to the billing for water, sewer, and solid waste. Would entertain a motion.
I'll move approval of Resolution 1882, approving a 5-year billing services contract to begin July 1st, 2018, with Waverly Utilities for services related to the billing for water, sewer, and solid waste for the estimated costs as set forth in Exhibit A of the resolution.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Council discussion, staff input.
I'll just briefly add, sir, that we've been working some time to get this agreement finalized. I've had Bill look through it to make sure that we had everything kind of dotted and crossed. And these are the costs that Waverly Utilities came up with some incremental increases each year. If you look through it, it kind of breaks down a lot of the issues that we were needing, whether it be capital improvement equipment from servers, whether it had been our server or their server, we would have spent that funding. The licenses you've already paid for, they were one time. The maintenance going forward is minimal. And then you have the main issue, which is the salary and benefit portion of it, which is equivalent to about 1 FTE, maybe a little more than that. So it's about what we anticipated. And it's a very simple agreement they've come up with for 5 years, and as shown, and be happy to try and answer any questions council may have.
So James, are you anticipating the cost to the city to be about the same as it is now when we make the switch, or is there going to be a significant shift in any of that?
As far as?
Is it going to cost us about the same as we're paying now to provide the service?
Well, they were paying us initially a substantial amount for electricity, and when that went away, we kind of removed the portions of those job duties to multiple positions, and 3 of those positions were eliminated. Accordingly, we have 1 position remaining from that original group, so it will be probably actually less than what we would have been paying to keep all positions full had we not done this agreement.
So just to clarify, we were paying about 3 positions previous, and you're saying this is about the cost of 1 full-time employee?
Just over that with benefits, yeah. When we, again, pulled the duties away from all the various positions we had, and we sent a memo to you on that as well, as far as the reduction in staffing that occurred, whether it be through retirement hiring into Waverly Utilities, we will eliminate 3 positions versus the single one, maybe 1.25 positions this might have cost us based on insurance and benefits and that kind of items. So I do think it'll be less.
Okay, any other questions, discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Rocky?
Yes.
Sher?
Yes.
Holstein?
Yes.
Bergen?
Yes.
Drinkoff?
Yes.
Angus?
Yes.
Kinsey?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item number 5, approving resolution 1883, authorizing acquisition of real property and a temporary construction easement for the Cedar River Parkway East project. Entertain a motion, please.
I will move approval of Resolution 1883, authorizing acquisition of real property and a temporary construction easement for the Cedar River Parkway East project, acquisition for the following location: Artesian Earthworks property of Parcel 1 at 2504 East Bramer Avenue for $150,000 and condemnation and closing costs of $12,255.46.
There's a second.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Council discussion.
I have a question, just how common it is to exceed the, what is it?
10%.
Yeah, the 10%. I mean, that we're that far, I mean, far off. I don't know if it's far or not. That's what I'm asking, I guess.
Well, our appraisal was 110, and our final offer at the time was 125. So the fact that it went up to 150, I mean, they had 2 numbers, but the highest number was 322,000. So sometimes you just estimate a little off.
Could somebody help me understand, we're acquiring property and a temporary construction easement. Temporary suggests that eventually property that's going to be used for something is going to end up being used for something else. Is that fair?
Well, not really. The way it works is that to grade the property that we're developing, we have to use some of their land to grade it, and then it'll go back to them. And that's pretty much on the outskirts of the property or near the intersection of the Parkway and Highway 3.
So the temporary easement is not a purchase. This is you're getting permission to do something with somebody else's property short term.
I think the appraisal was like $1,400 for the temporary easement when it came down to it. So it was a really small part of what we're doing. And the dollar amount for the $150,000 really was one of those kind of unknowns, because by building the parkway, we've restricted their access to their loading dock on that side fairly substantially. I mean, they can still use some vehicles and some trailers, and they can actually pull out on the street when it's safe to do that, to actually back in. But that's not the best way of doing it. So we had to pay for the damages, and really the cost of how to value that damage was really kind of an open question. That's not usually determined, and so that's why we were sort of kind of up in the air as to where the number would be. The grantors were a very willing seller when it came to this. This was not about not wanting to sell their property. It was just a difference in opinion as to how to value that damage, that loss. And so that's why, instead of completing the condemnation process by having the sheriff issue a deed or whatever, is because we're doing this quicker and easier, because we set the dollar amount, we both agreed not to appeal, and we're moving forward to get it done tomorrow.
Okay, any other questions, discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Sher?
Yes.
Holstein?
Yes.
Bergen?
Yes.
Drinkoff?
Yes.
Angus?
Yes.
Kinsey?
Yes.
Rocky?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 6, approving resolution 1884, authorizing acquisition of real properties and temporary construction easements for the 20th Street Northwest Phase 1A Railroad Crossing Road Improvement Project. Entertain a motion.
I move approving Resolution 1884, authorizing acquisition of real properties and temporary construction easements for the 20th Street Northwest Phase 1A Railroad Crossing Road Improvements Project. Acquisition for the following locations: George A. Max and Marilyn Max's property at 1209 20th Street Northwest for $7,406.00 and closing costs. Bartles Lutheran Homes property adjacent to Eisenach Village for no monetary consideration and closing costs. Wartburg College's parcel of property between the railroad tracks that provides access to their athletic grounds for no monetary consideration and closing costs.
Second, please.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Council discussion.
So it looks like this all pertains to property north of the railroad crossing, at least the Max property on the west of the road.
So Max is north and west of the road, and actually, we're going all the way up to their property line, so we went past the limits of this particular section. But that'll be a section that'll be done sometime in the future, and we just went ahead and acquired the whole parcel. For the Bartles, the area north of the railroad was already reserved when they did the Eisenach Village project, so they had the additional right-of-way already in the right place for that part of it. And then this would be the part that's south of the railroad that we've acquired the additional, the right-of-way and the additional 17 feet. Wartburg is the tiny little spot right between the railroad tracks. It's our drive into that area, so that was a fairly small, and we rebuild their drive onto the street at that point in time. So we'll really improve their property and give them the same access. And it was very good for Bartles and Wartburg. I mean, they were glad to do that without consideration. Especially Bartles, that's a significant portion of land that extends all the way from the railroad to Fifth Avenue. So that's a good contribution from them.
Okay. Any other questions? Discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Walseth,
Yes.
Bergen,
Yes.
Drinkow,
Yes.
Kangas,
Yes.
McKenzie,
Yes.
Coffee,
Yes.
Share,
Yes.
Motion carried, 7-0. Item number 7, approving Resolution 1885, approving contract bond, certificate of insurance, and change order number 1 from Kroll Incorporated for the railroad crossing improvements at 20th Street Northwest and 5th Avenue Northwest, 2018, authorizing the mayor to sign the contract. Entertain a motion and a second.
I move approval of Resolution 18-85, approving contract bond, certificate of insurance, and change order number 1 to remove bid item 1.06, joint utility duct bank, for a decrease of $183,280 from the original contract from Kroll Inc. of New Hampton, Iowa, for the railroad crossing improvements at 20th Street Northwest and 5th Avenue Northwest, 2018, and authorizing the mayor to sign the contract.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Council discussion.
I think the question that I have is why the change order?
And what is a joint utility
Yes.
bank? In lay people terms, please.
Okay. On the front page of the agenda memorandum, under summary statement number 2, what we were looking at is when we're going through the initial design, we were in contact with Waverly Utilities, and there are certain criteria that need to be met for putting utilities underneath the railroad. So this seemed like an opportune time to put conduits in to service future utilities that may desire to cross the railroad track by going underneath. So you think of fiber optic, cable, phone, those types, or electric even. You can either go over the top or you can go underneath. The estimated cost to do that, I believe, was about $35,000. But the bid came back at $183,000. So at $35,000, it seemed like a wise investment for the future. At $183,000, after consulting with Waverly Utilities, we're both in agreement that if there is a compelling need in the future, we'll do it in the future.
Why the gigantic difference, do you think?
We don't know. Part of it is the depth and the casing and reinforcing for this, but a lot of it just comes down to availability of a subcontractor looking for work, and evidently now is not the time.
Did we see that item being considerably above estimates from all bidders, or?
Yes, because there was probably one subcontractor available quoting all the prime contractors.
He looked around, he was the only one there, thought, you know what, I think this is a good time.
Now,
It was already busy, so.
what I would like to point out is, okay, so the methodology used is you have to get a subcontractor that specializes in boring underground and installing utilities. We did not see this type of increase when it came to putting the water main in. So the water main is also going to be bored underneath the tracks. They're going to have a casing, and then the casing will carry the water main in it. And that came in right at the engineer's estimate. So it was just this utility duct bank that seemed to be at issue.
Tried to call it a 1-inch water main and put it through. They didn't buy it, so apparently it doesn't work that way.
Okay. Now, what we also did with the Cedar River Parkway, the bridge has a duct bank for utilities. So the idea that, you have an 800-foot long bridge, utilities either have to span the river or go underneath the river, or they can go through the bridge. And again, Waverly Utilities was interested in having us incorporate this duct bank for future accommodations of utilities they may have. In 2 weeks, we're going to talk about the Adams Parkway Bridge repairs. That also has a duct bank, and after 50 years, it hasn't been used. So we may look at having a discussion on actually abandoning that, because the vaults on either end of the bridge need some significant repair work if we want to maintain it, but if they're not being used, we could save some dollars on that one.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, Mike, what you're saying is that at this point, it would appear that the likelihood of using that duct bank is fairly small, and you don't really see that on the immediate horizon.
Nor does Waverly Utilities. Yep.
Okay. Any other questions, discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Berger.
Yes.
Drankow.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
McKenzie.
Yes.
Rafi.
Yes.
Scherer.
Yes.
Walstein.
Yes.
Motion carried, 7-0. Item number 8, approving resolution 1886, approving the railroad agreement license for multi-use pathway sidewalk for 20th Street Northwest reconstruction with Cedar River Railroad Company of Homewood, Illinois. Entertain a motion and a second.
I'll approve resolution, or move approval of Resolution 1886, approving the railroad agreement license for multi-use pathway sidewalk for the 20th Street Northwest reconstruction with Cedar River Railroad Company of Homewood, Illinois, for the payment of a $1,000 licensing fee.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Council discussion.
So this is similar to our previous meeting where we had the $1,000 fee to have them verify that it was okay for us to,
Just to maintain it, yes.
yeah.
Yep. This is their toll.
It's either that or pay the toll keeper one on each side. So. Roll call vote, please.
Drankow.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
McKenzie.
Yes.
Rafi.
Yes.
Scherer.
Yes.
Walstein.
Yes.
Bergen.
Yes.
Motion carried, 7-0. Approving Resolution 1887, approving the construction and maintenance agreement for the 20th Street Northwest reconstruction with Cedar River Railroad Company of Homewood, Illinois. Entertain a motion and a second.
I'll move Resolution 18-87 as read by the mayor.
Second.
Council discussion. Staff input of any kind? Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Kangas,
Yes.
McKenzie,
Yes.
Rothy,
Yes.
Sher,
Yes.
Holstein,
Yes.
Bergen,
Yes.
Jenka,
Yes.
Motion carried, 7-0. Item number 10, approving resolution 18-88, accepting the citywide asphalt patching spring 2018 project as complete and approving pay estimate number 1 as final pay request to Blacktop Service Company of Humboldt, Iowa.
I'll move approval of Resolution 1888, accepting the citywide asphalt patching spring 2018 project as complete and approving pay estimate number 1 in the amount of $29,362.85 as final payment, as the final pay request to Blacktop Service Company of Humboldt, Iowa.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Council discussion.
Now, I know we've talked about this before, but I didn't see anything in the material that really talked about where this patching was done. It says citywide. Was there any particular area, Mike, or is this an area like we have with the sidewalk project?
No, this primarily addresses like where there's been water main breaks or service line issues. The gas company typically takes care of repairing their own utility cuts. So the bulk of the patching is due to water main breaks. Now, what's a little bit different about this one is we did include some maintenance work on the rail trail. So when we get the culvert built and get it opened back up to the public, a lot of people are going to realize that we've done some leveling and done some work at the bridge approaches on the Waverly Rail Trail. So that was a little less than half the cost of this project.
Which was well needed, but I do not recall seeing any patching equipment or patching trucks anywhere. How many spots were we actually required to patch things?
We're pretty stealthy, but there was...
the middle of the night.
I think that there was probably in the neighborhood of 15 utility patches that were done. The Public Services Department preps them. They go in and they saw cut and do the pavement removal, get them all prepped and ready, and then the company just comes in and it's typically, if it's a seal coat street, it's a 3-inch asphalt patch, 3-inch thick.
I know you mentioned before there's some seal coating projects that are going to be done that the city will be filling in patches that have settled before they seal coat. Is that still on your intention?
No, we have not addressed. We talked about doing some leveling throughout the community. That's kind of challenging to identify. In advance of seal coating, the city crews do a lot of patching and try to take care of much of that as possible. If there are more substantial areas, the option is either to do a pavement removal and replacement as part of the patching contract, or to try to do some leveling. And so we talked about, do we contract that out, or do we try to do it in-house? And to date, we have not contracted it out.
The reason I'm asking, and I know we have talked about this before, is in Third Ward, where we had so many houses that were removed, and utilities were taken out and big holes were cut in the street, and that's been patched, and it's probably not only been patched, but then filled and maybe filled again, and those spots are now sinking another 6 or 8 inches.
I would bet you're talking about 6th Street.
That is one of the streets, yes.
From Bremer Avenue up to 5th Avenue, and you get to the point where you're just it's got to be a rebuild to address all the deficiencies that we're seeing.
Are there any plans to rebuild?
Well, we'd love to if we can identify the funding mechanism, but I'm sure all of us can readily identify a dozen or more projects that we'd love to see accomplished. So
I know that that Councilman Shearer and I have talked about this, that West Bremer Avenue, going west past 20th Street is, like the craters of the moon out there. It's in very bad shape. And I think we've discussed this before on council. I don't want to belabor this, but we talked, mentioned at least that in our planning sessions and maybe in strategic planning, we need to talk about putting some kind of a program together for street replacement and not just, building new streets. That should be something we look at as a priority.
I think that'll be a good topic, strategic planning. I know it's something we talked about when the local option went through. It's something we've looked at. That's why when we kind of scheduled the parkway payments that we did not take all of local option. We had some sitting by for that purpose. It really come down to is how do you pay for the bulk of it? As we've talked, you can't really do it block by block because then you have this mound, this flat area, and it's not going to blend very well. So how do you get those portions done that need to be? And some of it may be substantial, so do we set some aside? Do you have to do it's crazy to talk about, do you do a bond for a certain amount of money to take out a chunk of how many streets for that purpose instead of another street? Things of that nature. Other cities have done it. Those are the things that we'll definitely have to talk about and maybe start to identify these areas that are worse than other areas. And then you get into traffic flow and you have an area that's extremely bad, but there's only 2 houses on it versus not quite as bad, but there's 20. How do you weigh that out? And so I think it's going to be a really good discussion once we get into it. Strategic planning will start it come budget next year. When we start that prior to budget, I think that'll be another time we can really get into what is capable and possible. But identifying the issue and getting some cost estimates will be one of the biggest things, is what would it really take? And then how much funding do we have? And then we'll start to work backwards from there.
Okay, any other questions, discussion? Roll call vote, please.
McKenzie?
Yes.
Conti?
Yes.
Scherer?
Yes.
Alstein?
Yes.
Bergen?
Yes.
Drinkow?
Yes.
Kangas?
Yes.
Motion carried, 7-0. Item number 11, approving first reading of ordinance 1047, an ordinance amending section 105.3.01, speed restrictions of the Waverly Municipal Code. Entertain a motion and a second.
I would move approval of ordinance 1047 as read by the mayor.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Council discussion.
As I look through here, it looks more reshuffling more than changes. Is that true?
We added some things and we reshuffled it and actually made it more readable so we could find where they are and did them by miles per hour instead of just adding as we went along. So we tried to organize that, and I have to thank Dee from the engineering office and Ben for doing their work on this, helped us, and then we drafted it in this form. So it'll be easier to use, and hopefully people can find what street they're looking for.
I'd kind of like to request that when we come back for the second reading, we have a map kind of highlighted of which is the 35 mile per hour zones, which are the 40, so.
It's about this, I can show you.
Well, like a PDF version of it so we can kind of look at it. I was reading through like all the different areas, just, because I try to look over your shoulder sometime. And I was, just getting lost in all the.
And we don't identify all residential streets because they're all 25.
They're all 25, right,
without being
exactly.
marked.
Right.
Yeah.
And we did have a business speed zone in here that was 20 mile an hour, that there weren't any streets with that. So that didn't make any sense. And we took off the 15 mile an hour for the bridge. It was in here somewhere. The 3rd Street Bridge, because I assume we don't have to go that fast anymore in there.
You'd have to go a whole lot faster if you want to clear that bridge.
You just jump right over it.
Dukes of Hazzard.
So it's just something to clean up. And we had to do a speed limit for the parkway, and we had to do a speed limit for a couple of the new streets, so.
So were there any streets that needed different speed limits? I know we've had a couple of people
We talked
talking
about
about
changing.
10th Avenue, that speed limit to the west, I think it is.
We did not do any of that. We talked about it when we were working with staff. We talked about some areas where even 4th Street, but 4th Street is a DOT, so we'd had to apply for a permission to do things, and they do things very strict and regimented, and we decided it wasn't worth kind of going through for some of those changes maybe. Because it does go from 35 to 40 to 45, and then to 55. And there's kind of some strange breaks where there used to be differences in how it was on both sides, and now it's kind of all one busy place. So at some point, there may be a evaluation of what speed limit would be appropriate on 4th Street all the way through, just to see if there's some consistency. But at this point, we weren't ready to do that. We were just trying to organize it and identify it. And the Parkway is the other one we wanted to set the speed on that. That's a design speed. You find between 8th and 4th, generally people don't go that fast. So it's there for a speed limit. When it goes through it, they may be finding that speed's there. I don't know.
Because we did look and talk about those areas that have been brought up, and we looked at, is it designed correctly for that speed, which it was, and even at a higher speed, is there a real accident issue there, police reports, et cetera, and there really weren't. And then is it just too much speed going through there in general with the traffic and the public? And we were looking at maybe trying to measure some of that, and we really didn't find that that was the case. So I think certain people, there's a perception of it, but when you sit and truly study it, it really is not the case. So we think it is adequately signed for the correct speed.
I have been tempted many times driving out of Spring Valley, Minnesota, coming south at the city limits to get out of my car and take a picture of the 2 speed limit signs. They're only 2 car lengths apart. One of them is 30 miles an hour and the other one is 55. I don't see much of that around here, thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Roderick.
Yes.
Sharon.
Yes.
Lossstein.
Yes.
Bergen.
Yes.
Drinkow.
Yes.
Angus.
Yes.
McKenzie.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 12, approving first reading of ordinance 1048, an ordinance amending section 105.4.09, handicap parking, and section 105.4.10, additional parking restrictions of the Waverly Municipal Code.
I'll move what the mayor just said.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Council discussion. Staff input.
You can probably predict what I'm going to ask, but at the second reading, can we get a map of these so we can look at it?
Beat you. I got it down right.
I think there is one, so I can get to it.
I've got a couple of issues here that I want to discuss, and I apologize to the rest of the council, but I promised Megan that it would be at least a 3-hour council meeting tonight, so I have to draw this out as long as I can. Under the handicap parking section, 105.4.09, under the new number 5, old number 7, it's talking about a handicapped parking area on the east side of 2nd Street, northwest or southwest, 45 feet south of the curb line of West Bremer Avenue. Well, that is across from my building. There has not been a handicapped parking spot there since the library moved almost 20 years ago. Now, I don't know if there should be a handicap spot there, and it was taken out by the city without amending the code, or if the code should be amended to have that taken out. But when I'm looking at that, I'm wondering if there are any other spots that are in the ordinance where it's talking about a handicapped spot, parking spot, where there actually isn't one. And I don't know, has anyone actually looked at these spots to see if there's a handicapped spot parking area where it's requiring one in the code?
I believe they did. I think they were trying to do that between Dee and Ben.
But if it's talking about removing one and there isn't one there, it doesn't really matter, does it?
Well, there is not a handicap spot there, although the code says that there should
Oh, it says
be.
there should be, I see.
So,
I see.
it
I thought
seems
you
to
were
me to
saying-
be
okay.
consistent.
Yeah.
And maybe that my bugaboo is consistency.
Mm-hmm.
But if the code is requiring that there be a handicap spot there and there isn't, then we should either amend the code or we should put a handicap spot there.
Well, we're going to have some extra signs because we're taking a lot out, so maybe we can just put one in there now.
Oh, my staff would not appreciate that, but that's what the code requires. But I'm just, that handicap spot was taken out when the library moved.
We
So-
did less looking at some of the general ones, and we looked more at the churches that were gone, because since that code was, there was, 4 churches that have been removed? And so we wanted to make sure we had those, because they were kind of out in the middle of nowhere. I'm not sure why that didn't get looked at if it isn't there, but we can look at
Well,
it.
you might.
And we might be able to remove it if we're going to
And
just
I
remove it.
don't know if it would be possible to remove that after we made voted on it the first reading.
We can do that.
Another issue that I have is number 35. Let me get that a little bit more.
Bremer Avenue.
In the general parking section, additional parking restrictions, 105.4.10, we go down to item number 35. And this is talking on Bremer Avenue about unlawful to park or leave unattended any truck on the north side of Bremer Avenue between 6th Street Northwest and 7th Street Northwest, and then goes on to define what a truck is. For those of you who are not, who would like to have a map, that is the area that is by Family Video and Dillevue Oil. Now, I do not understand why there is a parking prohibition about a truck on that block. I can understand maybe not having one on Bremer Avenue because of safety concerns and vision concerns and that. Mike?
Dates back to when Hardee's was there.
Okay.
So you get drivers that would stop, go in.
Run in and get a cup of coffee and a...
Meanwhile, the entrance and exit drives created with the truck there, it was a blind access and exit coming on out.
Well, I can see that we either have that on Bremer Avenue, period, that there's no truck parking on Bremer Avenue, or we take this number 35 off. And the second half is this another part I don't understand, because it goes on to say, it shall be unlawful to park any vehicle on the north side of Bremer Avenue for a distance extending 168 feet east from 7th Street Northwest, which is the same area. And I went out there and looked at it this noon, and there is no parking sign or any other indication that there is no vehicle parking on that block. And again, I don't understand why there's that block is signaled out not to have any parking. I assume it goes back to Hardee's again, that there was an issue with people pulling out of the driveway and their vision was obscured. But I would think that we should probably take number 35 out. Either take number 35 out, or if there's real danger. I haven't seen a whole lot of semis parked on Bremer Avenue, frankly, so it may not be
I think
necessary.
we either need to take it out or put Hardee's back in.
Put Hardee's back in.
I miss Hardee's.
Jimmy John's is okay, though.
I was going to say, you're going to talk to some people that'd be pretty upset.
So if I would suggest, I don't know if I can make a motion to that effect, that we remove number 35.
And I think at this point, we could probably do it and bring it back with those changes for the second reading.
I guess to be cleaner, though, I would probably see you making a motion to have that be removed, and if the council would agree, then that would direct us accordingly to do that for the second reading coming.
Okay, well
Would you be willing to do
then
that, Rod?
I'm going to move that section 105.4.09, section 1, subsection A, item 5 be removed, and whatever the other one is.
35, let's see.
35 under section
4.10.
yes, section 105.4.10, item number 35 be removed.
Well, I can second that.
Motion made and seconded to remove item number 5 and item number 35 from the parking restrictions. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Carried 7-0. Now, any other further discussion on,
I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
In the point 36 there, right before, or right under where Rod was just talking about Cedar Lane Road, what is west of the 5th PM?
A prime meridian?
Prime Meridian, that's what I was afraid of. Okay. And why aren't there any handicap spots on Bremer Avenue downtown? There aren't very many, like in front of some of the restaurants. They're behind, but some of the businesses don't have a rear entrance.
Usually there's some on the side streets around the corners.
But just thinking about people,
Okay.
oh,
2 points. One, it's a safety issue on Bremer Avenue. And second, you get them turned on the side streets, you're right next to the ped ramp that gets you up onto the sidewalk.
You look at the loading and unloading, the space, and then the vehicles and the closeness, it's probably not
that makes sense.
they were promoting.
Any other discussion, questions? Those in favor of a roll call vote on the amended ordinance?
Sharon?
Yes.
Holstead?
Yes.
Bergen?
Yes.
Drenkow?
Yes.
Kangas?
Yes.
McKenzie?
Yes.
Crothy?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
And this is all with the assumption that those places where it says there's going to be a handicap sign, we will check and make sure there is one there.
That's correct. Approving third and final reading of ordinance 1045, an ordinance amending chapter 7 by adding section 7.8, elected officials, removal procedures to the Waverly Municipal Code. Entertain a motion and a second.
I will move approval of ordinance 1045 as read by the mayor.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Council discussion. Roll call vote? Oh,
I was going to say, I hope we don't have to use it, but I think it's a good, I think it's a good addition to the code.
This is like fire insurance. You don't want to use it.
okay. Roll call vote, please.
Holstead?
Yes.
Bergen?
Yes.
Drenkow?
Yes.
Kangas?
Yes.
McKenzie?
Yes.
Crothy?
Yes.
Sharon?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Reports from boards and commissions. Board of Adjustment minutes, September 11th, 2017. Received into record. Airport Commission minutes, April 12th, 2018. Received into record. Staff comments.
Can I just say something about these reports? It's a really small point, and I don't know if it's important at all, but if people are looking whether we as liaisons are at their meeting, each of these commissions has a very different way of either reporting or not reporting at all in terms of whether we're there or not as liaisons. So I don't, again, doesn't matter to me personally, but if anybody were wanting to go back and look and see whether we were fulfilling our obligations, which has come up actually as a question sometimes in the past. So I don't know if there's a way to standardize that, but I just noticed from commission to commission, sometimes the minutes are silent on it, and, sometimes they're listed as a regular part of the group the commission itself, and sometimes they're listed as the liaison. So just an observation, again, not a huge deal, but.
And I believe you asked the question a while ago at one of the meetings you and I were both at, is who really is responsible for getting the minutes?
Staff does a lot of the minutes for the ones we do. Historic preservation is wonderful. They take turns doing the minutes for their members so that we don't have to do that. But I think there's a lot of them that we do them, don't we? Yep.
Okay, very good.
I know we just had a couple brief comments, sir.
Yes.
I just tell you that the CUNA building is starting forward. Everything's closed. The deal is done. They've got their ducks in a row, and they're going to start doing things. Their construction contractor or manager was in today. They're working with Waverly Utilities and moving forward with how they're going to do the electrical and all those things that I think they want it out of the basement, so they're trying to rearrange that. But they'll be moving forward. We'll be seeing demolition coming through fairly quickly. They'll be demolishing inside, basically hollowing out not the historic parts, but the other parts, so the office parts. Today we started with the Bremer Avenue changeover at the railroad tracks, and if any of you went west today, you might have seen me out there, or some others, because it didn't go well. We found out about noon that what they had done was a little confusing for people, and so we had them going the same direction, and, well, they shouldn't be going on the same place from different directions. So it really, what the WHKS got together with the DOT and the contractor, and they're really going to do what the contractor wanted to do, and that's probably just reclose that area between the railroad tracks and Casey's until they finish the whole thing. And it'll take substantially less time to do it that way. So instead of being 7 weeks or so or more, it could be 3 to 4 weeks. But that'll mean we're going back to it being closed. And so you have to go around the railroad tracks and stop, and you can't get past Casey's. So you'll be able to go into Casey's on the west entrance, and you'll be able to go into Pizza Hut and Cabinets Galore from the east across the tracks. There'll be a kind of a single lane taking you into those businesses, and then there'll be another lane that'll take you out to the east along the curb. So there'll be a one-way in and a one-way out of those two, and they should be properly marked, and we should be able to see how to get in and out of there. We're trying to make that as comfortable as possible. We are doing some more things with that.
But all businesses will be accessible along there.
So there will be, the ones that are more difficult are Crystal Plumbing and Sheer Image, and they will have a road that goes around behind A to Z Auto that you can get in from the Casey's parking lot. Okay. So hopefully for 3 or 4 weeks we can make this work. I know my wife's going to want to know how to get back to her hair appointment, so we'll have to explain how to do that. Casey's was nice to grant us the allowance to do that, so that worked out. And A to Z will go kind of across the front from Casey's, and on the north side or on the south side, Neighborhood Closet's going to have to be from the Home Boulevard area, so you'll be able to get to Home Boulevard, turn in, and go in on that way. So
somehow they will all be accessible. It's just
right.
And you've talked, because I remember them and Sheer Image and what do they call it? The plumbing people.
We just told
speaking up. I mean, they were concerned. So
we just told Neighborhood Closet that we wouldn't be able to let them come in from Bremer Avenue, and now we are, so they'll be able to get there fairly easily through Home Boulevard and through the frontage road. So that'll be better access for their customers. They're still going to have difficulties. They won't be able to get their trucks in to the loading dock, but it'll only be 3 to 4 weeks instead of...
And they know that you've talked to them about that?
Well, we haven't had a chance because I just saw the email at 5, so they just made that decision, and we'll be out there. I know Paula Stevenson already saw it, so she was already contacting, so they probably all know by now.
Because he was concerned about those trucks.
Yeah.
I mean, just the sooner we talk to him, the better.
We've shortened the time frame this way, and so hopefully they'll have less time to have to put up with that.
Yeah.
So it should go better. But hopefully this will be a little more, it's some inconvenience, but it'll be a shorter time period.
And Brian will want the map so everybody knows how to.
Great. I'll be looking at that on Facebook.
Drone video. Would be good.
Any other staff comments?
Just to follow up, Bill, on what you had to say about repurposing the CUNA building, is there anything new to report on the Red Fox? Is that still trying to move forward?
There isn't any new evidence, or any new news on that. Evidence, yeah, thanks. Sometimes the lawyer in me comes out.
strike that, Your Honor. I think Tab has a comment as well, sir.
Just a couple things. Tomorrow night's the first Tuesday night farmers market, so you can go get your vegetables there. Probably not quite yet, but tomorrow night in South Riverside Park, the new location. This Saturday is the annual emergency drill at the swimming pool. We get the EMS involved. I sent a reminder to Chief Purcell today, and so the police show up, the ambulance shows up. We call 911, so we go with the dispatch, and we have a victim, and we save them, and they get to ride around the ambulance. Yeah, no, we always pick, we have volunteers, the Boy Scouts are there, so we have volunteers. And also, school's out, so the pool's on its regular schedule now, so we're open 1 to 5 and 6 to 8 on weekdays, closed from 5 to 6 for programming. Wacky Wednesday, it's $2 every Wednesday, and then weekends we're open 1 to 7. Lastly, if you recall how hot it was last Friday, well, we had 5 parks staff and 1 company representative start to build the Rolling Hills Playground, the new playground out east of town. I got out there for about 3 hours. They were all out there for about 11 hours, but we didn't get any volunteers on Friday. Saturday morning, we got about 8 volunteers from the neighborhood and got everything pretty well wrapped up except for pouring concrete, which will happen on Wednesday, and then we've already got the fall material there. We can, as soon as the concrete cures, we can put the fall material out. At least that portion of that development will be done. We still have a basketball hoop to put up at some point.
Very good, thank you. Any other staff comments?
No, sir, I think that's all.
Okay. Council comments.
I just want to say that thank you to the staff. The cemetery looked really nice, and I know it was so hot, but everything looked really nice for the Veterans Tribute there.
Okay, any other?
I wanted to mention that tomorrow is election day, so you can vote in your primaries for various offices. I did have an interesting conversation with some of our local poll workers. So the question, it was pointed out that, so City Hall is one of the polling stations, and there are a number of like vote here signs and things that used to be kept in one of the janitor's closets, and they've been told they're no longer able to keep them here. And I wanted to know kind of whose decision that was.
I have no idea about that, and I'd be the one that they talk to.
Okay, so, well, because they just had their prep meeting this afternoon, and someone had passed down the word they were no longer allowed to keep those things in the janitorial closets for liability issues, and I was kind of curious for more of the story.
I'd be curious for more of the story, too.
Excellent.
Well, I had a question for you, Tab. Someone asked me at the Veterans, sorry, I don't mean to pick on you, but someone asked me the big flagpole there that did not have a flag on it.
Okay.
Is there a reason that it doesn't have a flag?
At the cemetery?
Yeah.
I don't know why. Was that Veterans or Memorial Day weekend?
Right. It did not have a flag. It's right there,
Yeah.
you know, up the hill a little bit.
We got lit and everything. I don't know why. I'll find out. Because we have flags. If they need a flag, we have flags.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Just to piggyback on Brian's comment about elections tomorrow, this is the first time you're going to be required to bring identification before you can vote. It's not all that complicated, but it could be frustrating if you show up without something that proves not just who you are, but more important, where you live. And it can be a driver's license, number of things.
It is more complicated, though, for some elderly who aren't driving anymore and have let their licenses expire and haven't gotten an ID yet, so.
I think you can sign an affidavit that says you are who you are. Can't you?
Yeah,
I saw in the news.
It says, "This is me," and you
Yes.
sign it right here.
They're going to be a little bit forgiving this time. Next time, not so much. And I think,
They go strict.
pardon?
2019, they go strict.
They go strict. So, anyway, if you have an ID, try to remember to bring it so that you don't need to get into a tussle with your poll worker.
I suppose the other thing that I wanted to mention was we had our meeting of the Historical Preservation Committee, and it was announced that the Green Bridge has been added to the National Registry of Historic Places. So now there will be record that this bridge was there, and we'll have pictures and documentation, all those things, regardless of what happens to it. At least now the memory of it is somehow being preserved.
I think we acted on that at one point. We had something to on council, we had something.
But
to
it
do
just,
with
it just
that.
got officially
Yeah.
approved or added to the registry.
Great.
My only comment would be, yes, there's a lot of construction out, and it's going to impede some of the progress on our trails and things that we have going on around town, but still take advantage of all the rec possibilities we have outdoors. The staff does a great job of keeping those up, and even with, some significant potholes or, ditches in the way now as they do construction, but get out there and enjoy our city still.
Okay.
And be careful for those kids that are out there trying to enjoy those too.
Megan, you have anything you'd like to say at the end of your first meeting?
No, not really.
Okay, very good, thank you. Any other council comments? I have a couple things. First of all, I don't know how many of you are aware that between the heat and the construction trucks last Friday, First Avenue and the intersection, particularly of 9th Street, and an area around the post office, took a real hit. It was hot enough, the trucks were forcing the oil out of the blacktop or seal coating and things. I got a call about 5 o'clock, and when I looked at it, it was bad, and called the police department, and dispatch says we've already had an officer look at it, and they had found somebody at Public Works. So I did a couple errands, and on the way home, there were 2 employees from Public Works with a load of sand and shovels, spreading it by hand on the bad spots. So I want to thank the Public Works, and particularly those 2 employees, and I'm sorry I don't know which ones they were. But so that, and I think we need to keep an eye on it. It's 9th Street and First Avenue intersection southeast is oiled up pretty good again today. So maybe have a check tomorrow and see if we can add a little more sand or something there.
Over by where Terex used to be, like that corner?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, it looked like they were putting down oil to seal coat. It was that heavy.
Thank all of the city citizens and public employees that have been interviewed by Enbridge. I think we're well on their way. Tomorrow, I believe, wraps up the interview process for the most part. Tab mentioned the pool is open, school's out, lots more kids on the streets, and I'd like to caution people to pay particular attention to the pedestrian crossing at 5th Avenue Southwest. It would make the chief's job much easier if people would pay attention when that light starts to flash. So, other than that, I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say yes.
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 We're adjourned.